Okay, well, hello everybody. Welcome all in Utrecht, and welcome, well, most of you are from Utrecht, but welcome to the inaugural presentation of the new free RCR, CU. We have called it Rebooting Relevant Research, just a bit of a play of words with the three R's. The program is as following. We have an opening word by Anton Pijpers, and he will be joining us via a video, a recorded video call. Then we will have Jan van der Valk, my predecessor as head of the 3R Centre Utrecht, talk a bit about the road ahead and also about the history of the 3R Centre. Then Wim de Leeuw will talk. He's from the Animal Welfare Body. And he will talk about the role of the Animal Welfare Body in the implementation of the 3Rs. Then we will have Daniela Salvatori from TPI talking, TPI Utrecht, explaining how TPI overarches and is steering the development and the transition that we're in. Then I will talk about what the 3R Centre is planning to do and how the 3R Centre is positioned within the Utrecht framework. Héloise will talk about a specific subject that we have tackled, that is running as a social media campaign on a specific topic, which she will talk about that. And the last speaker will be Ronald Vlasblom from the Applied University here in Utrecht. And he will also talk about the campaign and a bit about how we structured the working group. So I hope that it's an interesting program for all of you. It is a program though with many speakers and with short presentations. So we have deliberately chosen that in order to have a bit of an overview, but that also means that in order to keep up to schedule, we have decided not to have any questions after people have had their presentation. So we have a continuous program, but we will have ample time after the presentation for drinks. And yeah, obviously questions can be asked during the drinks. So yeah, well, these are the rules of the house. Again, warm welcome to all of you. Thank you very much to the speakers. And also at the end of the meeting, we will officially launch the new website. So that will be closely before the drinks. So this is the recorded speech of Anton. I will just see, how do I start it? I will just press.
Utrecht University and IvD Utrecht have traditionally been at the forefront of the development and implementation of the 3Rs of replacement, reduction and refinement, both in education and research. National milestones included the appointment of the first professor of laboratory science and the creation of the first course in laboratory animal science for researchers. An international milestone was the establishment of the first chair in alternatives to animal testing. That list also includes the creation of the first Centre for Alternatives, which started over 80 years ago as a national centre within the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine at Utrecht University. Jan van der Valk was the centre's figurehead for many years and ensured that the centre is a national and international household name and that it's embedded in a broad network. We've now entered a new era in the Netherlands with renewed momentum and ambitious goals in the field of animal-free research. The National Programme Transition to Animal-Free Innovation, or TPI, bears witness to this. And of course, Utrecht University is fully involved. We also have a local TPI Utrecht program with several educational courses where students are introduced to animal-free models. Moreover, we recently submitted a sizable growth fund application aimed at supporting and accelerating the transition. At the same time, we realized that within several research fields it's still difficult to work without animal models. Utrecht therefore continues to emphasize the importance of a responsible experimental design and animal welfare in those situations where it's still unavoidable, through the Animal Welfare Body and by firmly anchoring it in education. We are therefore committed to transition to animal-free research and education, but as long as we need laboratory animals, we are also committed to the optimal application of the 3Rs. The decision to bring the new 3R Centre Utrecht organizationally under the Animal Welfare Body should be seen in that light. The central place in the organization that the 3R Centre now has offers excellent opportunities to take steps in the context of both the 3Rs and TPI. The 3R Centre wants to become a central place for communication on alternatives to animal testing. But it also emphatically wants to distinguish itself as a facilitator by very practically generating data together with researchers to improve the application of the 3Rs and to accelerate the transition to animal-free. This is a long and bumpy route, but the end goal is clear. I'm confident that the foundation laid in Utrecht is sufficiently solid to consolidate and expand the international pioneering role Utrecht has always had for the future. The renewed 3R Centre plays an important role in this. I wish Jeffrey, the new head of the 3R Centre, and colleagues and others involved the best of luck.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Without further ado, the first speaker is Anton, Valk, my predecessor for a long time, and basically the founder of the 3R Centre, I would almost say. So I'm curious to hear what you have to say. The floor is yours.
Thank
so
you, Jeffrey.
Just switch on, and I will move.
So 3Rs, past, present, future. I'm happy to talk about how we established the 3R Centre and how I see the future. In 10 minutes, starting now. The NCA started in 1994 as an activity of the platform Alternatives to Animal Experimentation, and Wim will address that later on again. And we were localized at the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine. In 1999, the funding of the platform stopped because of a reorganization of the government, and the NCA became an official part of the Faculty of Veterinary Sciences. In the year 2000, luckily, Zonneweg started their program, financing alternatives, and we became one of their programs. At the same time, the chair on alternatives to animal experimentation became part of the Netherlands Centre for Alternatives. In 2005, we were able to obtain the second funding period from Zonneweg, and we celebrated that with a new logo, as you can see here. In 2008 was the end of the second period of Zonneweg, and they couldn't fund us further. So we were supported by the Faculty of Veterinary Sciences, and in 2010 the RIVM was appointed as the Netherlands Knowledge Centre on Alternatives to Animal Experimentation and asked us to collaborate. Unfortunately, it wasn't a very happy marriage. So in 2011, we decided to have our own identity, and we became the 3R Centre Utrecht Life Sciences, still cooperating with the Netherlands Knowledge Centre. And we started our collaboration with the Animal Welfare Body in Utrecht. In 2014, we had the revised Act on Animal Experimentation. The Netherlands Knowledge Centre as such was dissolved because we had the NCAD and the CCD. And the 3R Centre performed designated tasks for the responsible ministry on an annual basis, and the cooperation stopped in 2018. We continued the cooperation with the Animal Welfare Body Utrecht. And the last highlight was in 2022 when Jeffrey Bajramovic became the new head of the 3R Centre Utrecht Life Sciences. And now, looking backwards for 35 years from myself, you can ask, have the 3Rs, had they had an effect? And I'm quite surprised to hear some rumors that people think that 3Rs had no effect at all. Well, I'm going to show you that the 3Rs had an effect. When we look at the non-technical summaries nowadays, and they're easily accessible through the European website, I will show you that the alternatives are being used. This is the first example. Here you can see that people are finding traces for identifying cancer cells. All traces will first be tested in vitro. Only the successful ones will be tested in vivo. Second example, people working on lung repair, and they use tissue cultures and lung tissues of human origin in order to spare laboratory animals. Third example, bone research, where people had 55 compounds that might have an effect on bone repair. They tested all those substances in vitro. Only 5 were left, and the 5 were studied in vivo organisms. And what they say, by using tissue culture experiments for screening of substances, a large part of animal experimental research has become superfluous. And the last example, where people use literature studies, animal-free experiments in the laboratory, and they used computer models to reduce animal experimentation. But then you wonder, does this have an effect on animal numbers? Well, when we look at the national statistics, we see a flattening out of the animal numbers. So you may have the feeling that there was no effect on animal numbers. But we studied that already in 2007. I have to go back to the strategy that the scientists followed in the NTS. They followed the OMA principle. OMA is very popular with the members of parliament at the moment, and it says it is focusing on the research question, selecting the most suitable method, and then analyzing. That may give the way to non-animal methods. We have extended that already for a long time because a research question doesn't involve one problem. It involves many different processes. And you can identify, select, dissect all those processes and see whether for all those processes you can find an in vitro method. So you focus on the research, you define your sub-question and select the most suitable method and then analyze it. That's something that we have been teaching already since 1988 in the laboratory animal science course as part of the triage module. So it's not really new, but it is effective. Going back to the numbers, in 2007 we published a publication, Peter Verbos published a publication with Konrad Hendriksen and myself, where we looked onto the data of a pharmaceutical company that incorporated the different non-animal methods. We would call them NAMs nowadays, new advanced methodologies. And what you can see is that in about 7 years' time, the number of animals that they used for developing and testing drugs reduced by over 50%. But surprisingly, in 1998, the number of animals leveled off. Same like the Dutch statistics, where we see the same. And we went to investigate that a little further, and we looked at the number of compounds that they tested. And we noticed that the number of compounds went up in the last couple of years. So applying NAMs also means faster testing. And when you look at the number of animals per compound, so per research output, the number of animals dropped till about 15%. We had an 85% reduction in animals by the introduction of those NAMs. Only the time frame doesn't show it. It's the research output per animal that shows that tremendous reduction. So triage is not only replacement. As long as animal experiments are performed for whatever purpose, reduction and refinement remain important for the remaining 15% of those animal studies. And a lot of progress has been made in these areas. So the triage remain extremely important, and that's emphasized again 2 days ago by Minister Adema from the responsible ministry when he had the debate with the members of parliament. But we have to see where is reduction of animals or replacement of animals possible, because there are a lot of research areas. There are not non-animal methods possible, for instance, for the protection of animal species, for the protection of the environment, for the translation or applied research for target animals, and maybe also for basic research, and I will come back to that later. Because there are some scientific challenges. Every scientist in the non-technical summaries that are still using animals say that they have to use animals because the current non-animal methods can't mimic the complexity of the body at this moment, because we don't have enough knowledge. And that's also illustrated by an article last Saturday in the Volkskrant, where about the modeling of the brain that didn't succeed because the project, what one of the scientists said, the project has humbled me about what we understand so far. It remains an incomplete picture. That's for the brain, but it's also for the whole body. because we have challenges. We don't yet understand very well the effect of the gut-brain axis, the microbiome, not only in the gut but also all over our body. We have 10 times more microbiomes in and on our body than we have cells. They have a huge influence on how our body behaves. The immune system is poorly understood. The neuronal system, as the scientist just mentioned, just showed. Multiple organ interaction. We don't have enough information on that. Genetics, epigenetics also are very important. So there are huge knowledge gaps, and that shows the importance of basic research. Organ development, behavioral studies, lack of healthy diseased human tissue are also scientific challenges. And then in particular, the quality of the models we have now available. And I will quickly go through those. Reproducibility and translatability are extremely important. The composition and origin of media in which we grow the cells. Cell culture, whether it's static or superfused. Whether we use 2D or 3D cultures. 3D cultures mimic much more the in vivo situation. Cell identification, authentication, characterization, extremely important. We hardly consider sex in our in vitro methods. Ethnicity, circadian rhythm, in particular circadian rhythm, very important when you study the neuronal system. And we hardly consider the tissue origin. Well, the 3R Centre can play a role in addressing all of these issues. Not only, I think, as a 3R Centre, a Utrecht 3R Centre, but also as a national 3R Centre. Because international cooperation, as we have seen in the recent discussion roundtable and with the minister, is crucial to get the way forward. We can't do it at the national level only. And Utrecht 3R Centre is doing that already. They are cooperating already very intensely with 5 EU partners, where different webinars have been organized, and they continue discussions on items that need more attention. And then my last slide. The 3R Centre is also a member of a 3Rs network with 27 European 3R centres at the moment. When I started the NCA, we only had 3 3R centres in Europe. And only the 5 last year, we see an explosion in Europe of those 3R centres. And that's extremely important to be part of that network, because then at the international level, we can exchange information and bring the matter forward to reduce and even replace animal experimentation. So I wish Jeffrey and his team all the best, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Jan. Really, really nice. Yeah, no question. So we will save the questions for later. Next presenter is Wim de Leeuw of the Animal Welfare Body here in Utrecht. So, yeah. If you move forward, yeah, this should work. Okay, so the floor is yours, Wim.
Thank you very much. The next few minutes I want to reflect a little bit on the relation between the Animal Welfare Body and the 3R Centre. But before doing so, first I was asked by Anouk to tell something about my relation with the 3R Centre. And in fact there are 2 answers to this. An actual answer, we're living now in 2023, and 1st of January of 2022 the 3R Centre became part of the Animal Welfare Body, and thereby together with Jeffrey I'm responsible for the actual 3R Centre. And it's funny for me, but probably also funny for you to know, the circle is round a little bit, so to say, because as said already by Jan, it started all in 1994. And at that moment, in the first years of the 90s, I was secretary of the platform Alternatives to Animal Experience. And that platform was a platform that consisted of some ministries, some private companies, and some animal welfare organizations, and even, which was rather peculiar at that time, an anti-vivisectionist organization. And this platform funded on a yearly basis a separate project with the aim of developing and implementing alternatives. In the beginning there was not a bigger plan, and through the years the criteria were sharpened, and we realized that there was more needed than only funding individual projects. And we decided together with the faculty to install this national center to support on a more structural basis researchers. So the platform became a co-founder and a co-founder of the national center. In 2014, when I entered Utrecht University and when we started and installed the Animal Welfare Body, almost automatically we restarted our collaboration, Jan and I, on several issues. And I must say that through all these years we had a very pleasant collaboration, a very fruitful collaboration. And I'm very happy that at this moment we again have a very tight connection, the Animal Welfare Body and the Triage Center, and even more closely than it ever has been. Well, for those that are not so familiar with the Animal Welfare Body, sorry for so much text, but it contains the most, perhaps I must, essential information about the role the Animal Welfare Body has to play. The most important task of the Animal Welfare Body is first reviewing project proposals and work protocols, advising on several issues, and also advising several parties that have a role to play in the field. In the first place, of course, the researchers, but also biotechnicians and animal caretakers, but also policymakers and establishment license holders. We do internal audits. We have to perform annual statistics, registration of persons, dissemination of best practices, and last but certainly not least, the communication internally to all the players somewhere in the chain, but also externally. Most of these tasks are directly or indirectly based on legal obligations. So our role is we do have a complex and challenging task. Sometimes it's more or less juggling to combine these tasks of advising, facilitating, supervising internally, auditing and register. But above all, I think it is the most important that we communicate well and respectfully with all the people we have to deal with in the system. So the Animal Welfare Body is a kind of a spider in the net. We have close contact with a diverse population of researchers, biotechnicians, animal caretakers, also with colleagues of ours in the Netherlands, but also abroad. And this network helps us to get information that's relevant for us, but also to disseminate this information, and with the help of others in this network, to convert this information in new policies and best practices. Oh. Well, and being in tandem with now with the Triage Center has several advantages. We are working partly in the same network, so we are both spiders in the same network, but at the same time we do have each of us additional networks. So by cooperating we broaden our reach and we increase our critical mass. No. There's something strange. Yeah. So I can give you some example of the advantages of working closely together. This is a flow sheet of the process of reviewing and assessments of project proposals and work protocol. And we'll focus on the first step, this process is mainly based on legal obligations, and in the first step, a researcher, once he has a good idea, shares his first draft with us, and we have deep discussions, and in the CCD format he has to fill in. There's also a paragraph on the triage. And by structurally incorporating the triage center in this first step, we can broaden and deepen the discussion, especially on these aspects. Not only deepen the discussion with the researchers, but also within the animal welfare body. Working together in this step, especially in this step, helps a lot, and I think this combination of at one side critical assessment on these issues combined with expert advice and researchers has helped a lot, and I'm sure that it has improved in the previous years a lot of applications that were being done to the CCD, because as we know there is not one way to Rome, and sometimes the best way is even another way than repeatedly mentioned in scientific journals. Sometimes at this moment perhaps it is not possible to get rid of animals, but at other times there are other possibilities, and to deepen even furthermore the discussion, recently the triage center has formulated some additional questions together with the Animal Welfare Body, and we want to run a pilot now for the next coming years, and want to investigate whether this extra set of questions not give us some extra information. These questions are not meant to burden the researcher even more, or are not born out of mistrust, but have only also the role of investigate whether on a short term or on a longer term there are possibilities to support the researcher, not only with knowledge but perhaps also with practical support, by matching these researchers with companies or with trainees, you name it. And I think that's one of the challenges for the next coming years, also for the triage center, to find on a case-by-case basis, and sometimes starting perhaps in this assessment procedures, ways, individualized ways perhaps sometimes, to support researchers and to make a start with deviating from a path that has been walked for years or perhaps even for decades. Another example is the animal tissue exchange platform. A few years ago, the Animal Welfare Body and Triage Center started together with some researchers to set up this platform. It is step by step implemented now, still on a relatively small scale at the moment, but it is growing. One of these days also Radboud University will take part in this initiative, and until now it has been used mainly for exchanging animals, fresh tissue coming from animals, but the intention is also to use it for conserved tissues and also for other biological materials. So it has a potential to grow in future and to have also a role not only related to in vivo research but also ex vivo and in vitro research. And in this initiative also in the future the combination, the collaboration between Animal Welfare Body and the Triage Center, I think, can play an important role to make it bigger and to use this on a broader scale, not only in Utrecht but also with other institutes. And another example of a fruitful cooperation and also sharing information not only on the transition to animal-free method but also on the triage is, I think, the digital platform that was already available for many years in the previous triage center, but will be extended in the next coming years, with some new applications, bringing together applications on animal-free method, but also on other 3Rs. Probably Jeffrey will tell you more about it. Well, going back to 1994, when the NCA started, this was, you could say, fully on the basis of the 3Rs introduced by experts and Bill Russell, and laid down in their masterpiece Humane Experimental Technique, 59. At that time, there was no discussion about it. You could say the main thing Jan had to do was to spread the use and the knowledge on these 3Rs in education and in collaborations with researchers. But now we are living in 2022 and the landscape has changed. We have a lot more players. There is a vivid discussion, and that's good, that's very good, on the transition within departments, within establishments on a national level, as you've seen earlier this week, and also on the international level, as could be seen, for instance, based on the Citizens Initiative that was recently issued. And indeed, this is the way to go. We have to strive and accelerate where we can transition to methods that are closely related to humans or to animal patients living under practical conditions. But as it is with the energy transition, there's also a big need to change very, very quickly. But we all know that this will not happen overnight. So as long as we use animals, we also should take into account the 3Rs as one of the starting points. Well, to reach our goals and also to optimally support our researchers and others involved, I think a close collaboration between the Animal Welfare Body, the 3R Centre and the TPI Utrecht is very important. I think in collaboration we want to accelerate this transition, and especially where the Animal Welfare Body is concerned. I think also, as long as we do have these animals in the lab, we do have to strive for an innovative way of implementing the 3Rs. Innovative because also especially these 2 Rs of refinement and reduction should be continued and dealt with in an innovative way continuously. So we have at one side play our role together, but at the other side we have our own place and our action to take from our own role and with our own accents in this issue. And especially for the 3R Centre, I think for the next coming years it is the task to give hand and feet and support very practically with feet on the ground on a small scale and also on a larger scale the researchers in our labs. And well, we all know this is very challenging but also a very rewarding task. So Jeffrey and all your colleagues, your future colleagues, I wish you a lot of success with it. Thank you.
Okay, so the next speaker will be Daniela Salvatori, who is a professor transition to animal-free innovations, and she is
the voorzitter, the chairperson.
The chairperson of TPI Utrecht. Yeah. Okay.
And I need to correct you. Unfortunately, my chair is not into transition to animal-free innovation. I would like to. Perhaps I will use this advice to my faculty.
Yeah.
But I am a professor of comparative anatomy and physiology only.
Well, only. It's, you know, it's well, it's also good, but I mean, fair enough. You're the chairperson of TPI Utrecht, so Transition to Animal-Free Innovation. And I'm very curious what you have to tell. So
now, I have only 10 minutes, so
I know,
mine is a short story.
Well, that's good.
I would like to start wishing you all the best for this new function, also on behalf of TPI Utrecht.
Thank you.
And yes, have a lot of fun. There is for sure a lot to do. So.
Thank you.
Yes, this afternoon I am here on behalf of TPI Utrecht, and you see immediately that the TPI Utrecht is a collaboration, a working group of Utrecht University, of the University of Applied Science, and the academic hospital here in Utrecht. And I show to you the ambassadors of TPI Utrecht. We have ambassadors from almost all UU faculties, but we have also the University of Applied Sciences, and we have the Animal Welfare Body. So the Animal Welfare Body, and you see here Wim de Leeuw present, has been always a strong supporter of the transition to animal-free, and you just ended with this slide, Wim, so it's a very nice bridge. And you see immediately that the legacy of the Animal Welfare Body and possibly of the Free Art Centre will stay embedded in TPI Utrecht, taking new challenges. And I am not going to describe in details all the ambassadors, what they have done, but the ambassadors in this slide have put tremendous energy in the transition to animal-free innovation in many different ways. Some of them had huge national and international grants. They have started international initiative, and yes, I am very proud to work with all my colleagues. Yeah, I think that we share some values. We really strive towards the creation of an inclusive culture and community. At the end, that is what is behind all our action. That is what we want to achieve. We don't want to divide, we want to unify, we want to use the synergy of all the partners that are in this story. We all believe in one health and one welfare. And I tried to put in writing which are the goals of TPI Utrecht. We want to stimulate top research and education quality through animal-free innovation. Our discussion goes beyond the discussion of animal welfare. We see that putting a number of laboratory animals and putting the discussion of the animal welfare is in some ways slowing down the transition. And we would like to stimulate the cooperation in and around Utrecht. And when we say around Utrecht, we mean regional, national, but also international. And we have already started with this. Of course, in research is very clear, but also in education. And the dialogue, the communication, it is a central part of this story to really create the common values. And we would like to work with our institution that will start their own local TPI. But TPI Utrecht is special because it was strongly wanted by the ULS deans. And Wouter, you were one of these ULS deans. And so, and this is unique in the Netherlands. The other TPI are struggling in the other universities with the positioning of TPI, but we do not have this problem in Utrecht. And we also believe that medical research needs to be modernized, and I don't need to go through the fact, the problems already Jan van der Valk about the scientific case. We need better models that are more significant for the human situation. But we acknowledge also now in all the industry, pharmaceutical field, that we need to decrease the time for producing medicine. We need to decrease the number of failures. We need to give a chance to treat better and quicker patients. So for me, the word sustainability really applies totally to the transition to animal-free story. And sometimes this is not really fully in focus. The transition to animal-free innovation is a sustainability problem. And we need to take it globally. We need to really change and create a new ecosystem. But yeah, the transition to animal-free innovation is running around this planet, I think. I think that things are changing. So the Food and Drug Administration Modernization Act that has been approved before the end of this year, last year, sorry, has been a tremendous step forward. Also to move industry to embrace the animal-free innovation. But it's not only USA. I was extremely happy when I read that also there is a proposal from the EU to change the previous medicine law. So, and I have put it in yellow, so the animal-free method can be embraced. So also the embracing of animal-free methods, it means to create trust around animal-free methods. And, but it stays, we have all said, the transition to animal-free innovation is a complex ecosystem. It is not enough to have a fantastic scientific project. We need the interaction with the politics, with the regulatory bodies. And we have the public. The public all over the world is asking for animal-free innovation. And we have a lot of interaction. I now focus only on the blue lines. There is a lot of communication that needs to happen, a lot of education that needs to happen, a lot of training, a lot of skilling, reskilling. And I try this afternoon to give emphasis to this part, to the education, training and communication. So what I try to do to put all the connector lines under these three words, education, training and communication. So we give a new content to the word education. If I think about education, I think about myself sitting in a room and listening to somebody. But this is really the next step that education is training, meaning something for society. And yeah, I strongly believe, together with other parties, that communication, education and training have the potential to maximize the uptake of new approach methodologies. I also would like to give emphasis to the fact that by law, researchers, scientists, teachers, they are obliged to consider uptake and use of animal-free innovation. If I mention this at the Utrecht, for example, to the young PhD students, they don't know about this part. So we should really also understand that this is not anymore only an ethical issue, but it is also a legislative due that we have. And the fact that new approach methodologies are not so strongly embedded in our education came also from this report from the EU, in which it was clearly said, you know, we need together to make an effort to bring the 3 R's more strongly into our education. What we have now is not enough. Yes, the last is fantastic to talk about 3 R's in the last course, but that is not the moment in which the mindset of the new researchers will change. But also, it is also clearly reported by many articles that we researchers, we also work by tradition. We cannot deny to do this self-reflection, I think. And so we need to make an effort to think about what education, communication and training mean in the transition to animal-free innovation story. Now, last year, we published, and it was an assignment from the University van de Nederland and the Nederland Federatie van de University Medical Center, we published this ambition statement about innovation in higher education. And we gave a very detailed advice about how to decrease the number of animals in the different type of courses. But we also put a lot of emphasis to say that education is the catalyst for moving the education and the education with animal-free innovation further. So the education is the catalyst, is a sort of catalyst for uptake of animal-free methods. And we are very proud that in the Kennis agenda that was presented to Minister Adema when he came to visit Utrecht, this statement is reported. It is one of the 8 advices, most important advices within the Kennis agenda that ZonMV has prepared. But also the EU at the end of last year published a report about the situation of non-animal method in science and regulation and dedicated a big chapter to education. So education, 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 and again Utrecht is the right place to make it happen. So much is happening in Utrecht also about innovation of education. We have the continuing education program that is piloting a lot of initiatives. We have the EVO alliance with Wageningen, with Eindhoven and with the UMCO. So we have a lot of possibility to create programs for the bachelor, the master and the professional education, because also it is very important that professional education will be compulsory for researchers that use animals but also that do not use animals. And yeah, I go to my last slide. TPI needs an organic education and training plan. And this training plan is what will be the connector among all parties. So we need a plan that will cover the bachelor, the master, the summer schools, the PhD courses, the continuing education and the public engagement, very importantly. And we have a nucleus, Utrecht University, UMC Utrecht and the Hogeschool Utrecht has already pioneered quite a lot during the last year. And we need to use this nucleus of initiative that we have started to build further and to make this topic one of the strategic themes in the education tree. And we need to work in co-creation with all stakeholders with emphasis on industry. And we talk about skill set and mindset that are equally important according to the open science principle and also following a cross-disciplinary approach. So we need resources to make it happen, and but nevertheless we are already working on this and there is a lot of stamina to go forward. So with these slides I end and I thank you all. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Well, thank you very much, Daniela. very clear and very inspiring. I'm on, yeah, okay. So, yeah, I'm very happy to be the fourth speaker, to be after all these presentations that have sculpted the landscape that I landed in. So my presentation will follow this line. I will first talk about the position of the 3R Centre, because that I think logically follows up on the presentations that we have just heard. Then I will tell a bit about who I am, the mission and the vision of the 3R Centre, the 3R Centre as a communicator and as a facilitator, how we see that and how we are going to shape that in the coming years. Then I will tell a bit about the focus points that we have chosen for the next couple of years, and I will make some final remarks. So this is basically our mission, well, a bit in Utrecht University. We are in the middle of a transition, and to implement the transition towards animal-free innovations at the Utrecht Science Park, 3 local organizations act in synergy. So you have the Utrecht Animal Welfare Body, or the IvD as Wim put it, the 3R Centre and TPI Utrecht, and they all have a different role in this process. The Animal Welfare Body is there to protect the welfare of the animals. The TPI Utrecht is there to stimulate really the transition towards human-based biology, and the 3R Centre Utrecht is smack in the middle. So together, our overall and our shared aim is to maximally bring back the use of experimental animals used for education and research, and also to maximize animal welfare where animals still are being used. So our position within the Animal Welfare Body, from an organizational point of view, is, I think, excellently chosen, because we are in the middle of where the research is going on, and we see all the research proposals that are there. So, very briefly, because I think this is not the most interesting part of the presentation, I'm a biologist by training. I had my education in Leiden University. I'm a cellular and molecular biologist. I have a PhD in neuroimmunology, and I obtained that at Erasmus University, but I performed the work at TNO. I did a postdoc at the Pasteur Institute in Paris, working with viruses that infect neurons. Then I was head of the alternatives unit at the Biomedical Primate Research Center in Rijswijk. And now, since 2022, I'm the director of the 3R Centre here in Utrecht. And basically that, this list shows a bit that I've been working both in a university setting as well as in a private institute setting. And I've been working most of my life with in vitro methods, because that's more or less my signature, trying to work as much with in vitro methodology as possible, but also sometimes with in vivo methodology if, for example, you need comparisons. Who am I? This is actually intentionally out of focus. Anouk panicked a bit when she saw it, and she said, well, there's something wrong with this picture. I just gave you the specs about what I did as a researcher. That's not the most interesting part. It's just, what I am professionally. I am a pragmatic scientist. I'm science-driven, and I have a firm belief in data. And I think that is also going to drive where we are going with the 3R Centre. I also believe that animal models are considered the golden standard, and although I know many people believe this, they are sometimes really hampering progress. It's not that they are not always the best model, but sometimes they're even hampering the process. I don't want to dwell on this, but in the interview that's published on the website, of our website, there is a very specific example that I gave about this, how this can sometimes work. Also, what I really want to underline is that models will always remain models. It's not for it's a model. That's why it's called a model. It is, you always need to make a translation. So there is no model that is the silver bullet. All models have translationability issues. But I think what is, to me, sometimes really a bit frustrating is that people will argue that a species-species translation is still seen as less of a problem and as more reliable than when you do an in vitro in vivo translation. So if people ask for physiological relevance, people would say, okay, show the physiological relevance in a mouse, so in a living creature, even if you're studying human biology. And when I would argue, well, you need to make a translational step, you can also do an in vitro study in a human being, and I don't see why that would be less reliable. There is obviously also a societal desire to bring down animal use, not only for scientific purposes, but that is our job, or my job at least, to focus on that. And rather to wait for that to happen, I really want to be part of that movement. That's why I spent my time doing that, and why I want to do what I'm doing. So the mission and the vision of the 3R Centre Utrecht is basically to reduce the use of laboratory animals in research and education. That's obviously no surprise. So the 3RCU stimulates the 3 R's of replacement, reduction and refinement in that order. So that really means our main purpose is really the replacement. That is our main issue. We want to strive towards less animals. To do so, we have communicative tasks and facilitatory tasks. I will go back to that. And the vision about this is that we do not only generate and support ideas, but we also want to generate and support data, and in order to support these ideas. So that's really the overarching idea. So I just want to spend a couple of words on replacement and NAMs, because we have heard now people use both terms. The old terminology, you would say, is the 3 R's terminology of replacement, reduction, refinement. The new methodology is NAMs. So what's the difference? Well, the term replacement essentially excludes animal-free methods that do not directly focus on replacement. So it's not a very inclusive term. It is animal-based. So the non-animal methods, or the new approach methods, I think that is now the official abbreviation, are all methods that do not use laboratory animals, including methods that are just not directly aimed at replacing existing laboratory use. So it's much more inclusive. There's a lot more methods that fall under that abbreviation. So it means that replacement and NAMs are basically largely overlapping, but they are not similar, but they are overlapping. And I think in order to have TPI and the 3 R's match and align, you need to use these two terms and to bridge them and harmonize them. And I don't think that is very difficult, but you need to keep that into your mind. So what are our tasks as communicator? Well, we have a website. One of the reasons we're here is that we have a new website that is officially launched this afternoon. So I'm very happy about that. I'm also proud about that. Anouk, Héloise and Sjoukje put a lot of effort in it, and I think it is really, it has been really worth it. That website contains a lot of information, so I invite you all to go there. We communicate via social media, LinkedIn, Twitter. For me, communicating via Twitter is a complete experiment. We are working on it, and via LinkedIn I can say it's very successful. Via Twitter it is sometimes successful, but not always. So we're still working on that and learning that. So we do not only have the website and LinkedIn, Twitter, we also take active part in the discussion. So it's not only communicating with the general public, but also try to make steps in content. So one of the things we're doing is that I'm one of the co-editors of a special topic, a research topic, NAMs in immunology, in Frontiers in Immunology, and we're actually pushing forward that people, we are creating awareness among immunologists that there are NAMs and there exist NAMs in immunology, so that they can use that for uptake. We try to move that field a bit. Another example is that I'm one of the co-writers of the Streefbeeld Immunology, the ambition statement immunology, that is about to come out. And what we also want to do is to use part of this streefbeeld immunology and push it in this frontiers in immunology issue, so that it's really clear what a roadmap should be for working on immunology and trying to incorporate as many NAMs as you can. The other end of the spectrum, as already mentioned by Jan van der Valk, we are part of a cross-European initiative of 3R Centre, led by the NC3Rs. We are organizing together with them a webinar in June, which is a culture of care webinar, so that's really mostly about replacement. And also mentioned by Jan, we are part of this big European 3R Centre consortium, which is now called EU Cost Improve, which contains, and we're still counting, Jan, over 30 3R centers. So it's really growing. And I would also say, if it would not be working, the 3Rs, Europe would not invest in this. You know, there are so many countries where we have now 3R Centre that it's, yeah, it is, I would say, almost self-evident. So also we take part in education, the LOS course, of course, as mentioned before. It's very important, but also upon request at the University of Applied Science, but also with specific foundations that are asking for debaters or that ask us to teach about the 3Rs. So now about the 3Rs as a facilitator. So what do we do in terms of making things happen? Well, first of all, we inherited this very handy tools program from Jan van der Valk. There is this database program that he set up, the FCS-free database, the interspecies database, and the humane endpoints website. Extremely useful, very often used by many people, also internationally. So we want to maintain that. We are trying to make it more sustainable because we are at this moment migrating and updating these databases towards the UU setting, so we have more control over it, and we have control also over the durability and the future of these websites, because it costs, obviously it comes with costs if you need to keep them updated, these websites or these databases. As mentioned by Wim already, we have the animal tissue exchange platform. We also want to bring that under our platform, under the 3RCU website. And there is at this moment the development of a 3-ranker initiative, which is an AI-based initiative. It's a self-learning algorithm looking for alternative methods on the internet. So it's really browsing and searching what is available. And that would also get a place in under the 3R website. So we have this 3R tools program. Obviously, to work as a facilitator, you need some kind of agenda setting. We do that ourselves. If we think that a topic is worth exploring, we put it on the agenda. But we also talk with TPI. So that's a top-down agenda setting. If TPI believes that things should be put on the agenda and that we should move, then they can contact us, of course, and we can think about it. But also bottom-up, if researchers want to put something on the agenda, then we are very happy to listen and to help them out. We work via focus points. This is basically our agenda, so I will come back to that in a moment. So we collaborate with researchers to generate the data, and I think that is really important, that we do not only send and receive, but we really make dirty hands. This is an integrated approach, and I will talk a bit about that in practice by having one example of a working group. So what are the focus points at this moment, 2023, 2024? We are focusing on parallel studies. So we are inviting researchers to come up, if they are performing animal experiments, to in parallel to these animal experiments that they are doing anyway, to think about application and development of in vitro methodology. So far we have found Nienke Vriesekoop, Merle Krebber and Remco Westering, UMCU and UU, to work together with us. Not saying that it will work, but at least we start with it. We are exploring what is possible. The other focus point is about animal-derived antibodies. recently the ECVAM has issued a decree, basically an advice, a pressing advice to European researchers that they should no longer be using animal-derived antibodies. There was a large pushback from researchers that said, well, that is impossible because the alternative, synthetic antibodies, are not as good as animal-derived antibodies because the process that normally antibodies go through, affinity maturation, does not take place if you have synthetic antibodies. So we're exploring this issue, and I think this is now a yes-no issue between ECVAM and researchers. We are trying to give that hand and feet and take that debate into the scientific arena by creating comparative studies, but also by trying to create affinity maturation in vitro. We're doing that together with Jeannette Leusen. They have loads of antibodies made under the UMAP consortium. These are all animal-derived antibodies, so they are all there, and we are going to use this library to see what we can achieve when we do synthetic antibodies. And we are also writing this up at this moment for the Create to Solve program to get funding. So last, this is really ongoing at this moment, is the replacing animal-derived products for cell culture purposes. It's a mouthful, but basically the idea is that if we get researchers so far that they start working in vitro, many researchers work, if they are working in vitro, still with animal-derived products. And these animal-derived products are also associated with animal harm. Two notable products, fetal calf serum and Matrigel. So, and that is actually putting us in front of a dilemma. We want to move researchers to work to in vitro, to do that, but on the other hand, we also want them not to use these animal-derived products. So we are helping them. So we stated, we had a working group, Gels and Sera, also continuing work that Jan van der Valk had already started, but we're now giving it more hand and feet. And we're also preparing a Create to Solve in order to push this work further. So what does this actually mean if we have a working group on it? So we have the FCS-free database. We inform researchers about what is possible. We have made a Teams environment where lots of information and tables are available. Also, we did an analysis of yearly FCS and Matrigel use. Thanks Bas and Louis Penning for helping us out to get these figures above the table, because we do want to see that these numbers decline over the years. We want that our working group really contributes to a decline in that. We have a listing of the cell lines and the companies that are involved. We have regular meetings, but, and this is I think the most important part about our integral approach, we are storing free test reagents for researcher centrally. We have support from companies. So Anja is here as well. Yeah, Anja is basically instrumental in that. She has been able to move a lot of companies to give us free material so that we can test it here at the campus. And we also have support from Proefdiervrij, who has been very generous to react to this and say to researchers that if they want to be work for example serum free, that they can help them out also financially. So it's very nice to see that we are not only saying things, but we're really trying to facilitate researchers as much as possible. Part of that is also we do matchmaking interns and researchers, so we're not only providing researchers with reagents, but also if they need manpower. And finally, we're also providing them, if it's not possible for them, with lab space. And we do that in a unique collaboration with the University of Applied Sciences, and Ronald is going to talk about that in a few moments. Last but not least, we're trying to get more researchers on board to actually do this. And we do this, we create adherence and awareness via a social media campaign. And Héloise is going to talk about that, and she's going to show you how we achieve that. It's also where you see that all these nice pictures come from, because starting this social media campaign has also learned us a lot about we can work with AI derived images. So all the images you see here in this presentation are AI derived, including this one. So transition, yes, these are my final remarks. You cannot see it here, but the title of it is Transition, yes, but together. And I think that's important, because one of the things you see now is that if you move too fast, and we need to accelerate, but if you move without the people that you want to move, it's like the nitrogen story in the Netherlands, you will lose contact. So you need to involve the people that you want to move from the start. You need to involve the researchers. So we want to participate in the discussion. We want to work together with the researchers, involve multiple players. We collaborate with the Animal Welfare Body. As said by Wim already, he gave some nice examples. We collaborate with TPI, also clear. We need to harmonize the idea that you have NAMs and 3Rs and that they are opposite to each other, because that's ridiculous. They are almost similar. They have a large overlap. We have the same goals, the same overall goals. And I think we need to emphasize that we are unique in Utrecht. We have this large community of researchers, education, we have a veterinary faculty. Not to forget, we have a rich history in animal welfare and alternatives to animal experiments. So that's really important. So I think we have the history. I also hope we have the future. And the last thing on this last slide is actually what I want to get across. There is only one Dutch 3R center. And I think what I want to emphasize here, that we are a reliable partner within Utrecht to really get things done. To not only discuss about them, to not only put them on the agenda, but to get them really done, to move forward. So with that, I move on to Héloise.
Okay, I hope the sound will be better. Yes, I'm going to talk a bit about the FCS campaign that we ran with the 3R Center. So I was an intern for a few months from September to April at the 3R Center in the communication part, and so I helped with Schalke and Jeffrey to run this campaign. So the idea came from also the working group where we are trying to find alternatives to replace the animal-derived components used in cell culture. So, for example, FCS, which stands for fetal calf serum, and there is some ethical arguments against the use of FCS. So the fact that a lot of calves are used to use this this serum. For example, in Utrecht Science Park, around 400 liters of FCS are used a year, which means a lot of calves, between 500 and 600 are needed to also make this serum. But there was also like a lot of scientific arguments to emphasize that it can be nice to use as alternatives against FCS. And for the scientific and the researchers, the scientific argument can be heavier. So we had the feedback in the working group that it could be nice to also share these scientific arguments. That's how the idea of the campaign came, to also inform and share and start a discussion among the researchers and show the scientific arguments. So we started with these 7 scientific arguments, and we made out of these arguments 7 posts that we shared on social media, so LinkedIn and Twitter, the one we used at the 3R Center. And so we had these 7 posts that we share once a week during 7 weeks then, but we also had a post to begin the campaign and a post to end the campaign. And we also made news item at the beginning and at the end to share amongst the university, but also HU and the UMCU, to inform that we are starting the campaign. So we wanted the post to be attractive and questioning also. So we tried to start with every time a question to attract the attention of the researchers and the people that see the campaign, and then showing the scientific arguments. And we wanted also every time to end with the link to the FCS-free database to also show what are the possible alternatives, and also a link to all the arguments that we can that you can find in our website, in the 3R Center website, with all the ethical and scientific arguments. And we also wanted to add images to the post, and then as Jeffrey said, we used the AI, so there was also a learning experience for us to try to have images that can convey an intriguing message. So I'm going to show examples of the post we used. So this was the first post about the xeno arguments, and the post said this: do you use fetal calf serum for your cell cultures? Are you studying bovines? If not, isn't it inherently illogical to supplement your cell culture medium with a product derived from another species? Would you be as comfortable with adding adult dog serum or fetal whale serum to your cell culture medium? Unless you are studying dog or whale biology, of course. So then I also added this image with it and had at the end of the post the links to the FCS free database and the list of all the arguments. This is another example about the unknown composition of the FCS. If you buy a new car, you would like to be absolutely sure about the type of fuel you need to put in, right? As stated in the previous post, control is key to reproducibility for researchers. We do not know the exact composition of fetal calf serum. We do not know which or how many factors affect the cells in our culture, yet we add it. How does that impact the validity of your results? So on LinkedIn, we had a lot of reactions, always about 50 likes, especially the first post of the campaign that really hit the most. And then we also had always a few comments, a few reposts, and then from people from different countries, different organizations, which was also encouraging. We also got the French 3R Center that made an article about the campaign. But also the news item about the campaign got in the top 10 of the most read articles, news item for the university, Utrecht University. But on Twitter, sadly, we get a bit less reactions. That shows that it was maybe not the right audience for. But also, we wanted to get more people involved, and more members came to join the Gels and Sarah working group. So about 20-25% more members in the working group, which is also encouraging to get researchers on board and to work together towards using new alternatives to animal-derived projects. And it was also a learning experience for the 3R Center in terms of communication, and that shows us that it's also important to focus on the first and the last post to also really mark clearly the campaign, and also to think about a visual identity, to have all the images looking the same, for example. But the campaign was just the start of the conversation, and then we can continue this conversation with the researchers and try to also get more to action. We also have all the arguments and all the images that can be shared and that can be used among your network, with other colleagues, with other researchers, or even students. So if you want to also have this material and use it, you can contact the 3R Center for that. There is also the idea to do a similar campaign for matrigel, and show the scientific argument against the use of matrigel for cell culture. But now it's also important to move on to action after having informed, and the real work will be done in the labs. So thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you very much, Héloise. Very clear. I enjoyed working on the campaign. We had a lot of fun doing that. So please, Ronald, you are the next and the final speaker. Ronald is here from the University of Applied Sciences, and he will talk a bit more about the working group and the role of the University of Applied Sciences in it, but also education and the 3 R's will be a topic of your presentation. So, floor is yours. I give you this microphone.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I would like to start with this picture. Imagine a world without laboratory animals. In that case, I would not work in this building anymore. I hope to work in this building because this is our headquarters of the University of Applied Sciences. But it is possible that I do not have any work at all at that point. My name is Ronald Vlasblom, as Jeffrey told, and I work together with a lot of great colleagues mentioned over here. And with these colleagues, we train biotechnicians. We learn them all kinds of in vivo, invasive and non-invasive techniques in laboratory animals such as rat and mice. But things are changing. Things are changing very rapidly, as we hear in the other presentations, and we think we need something to do with that in our educational program. And therefore we work together with all kinds of other colleagues in our department, and they are experts in silico modeling, they are experts in vitro modeling, and even in human relevant data to obtain and to express some conclusion about that. So, and via this change, I got in contact with Jeffrey a few months ago, and we had a lot of conversations, a lot of fruitful conversations, and I would like to stress some items about that. And the collaboration between the University of Applied Science and the 3R Centre go back a lot of years ago. Our students used and still uses the website of Humane Endpoints. Jan made this website, as in one of the former presentations was also mentioned. But mainly we had a focus on the 3 R's in vivo experiments. And due to the conversations with Jeffrey, the collaborations were extended in last year, and were such extended. We contribute also to the working group of gels and sera, and what I would like to mention in the following few slides are a few points to highlight the important points we will focus on in the next coming time, so to say. And here I will mention that, and I will focus on each of them in a separate slide. One of them is to participate in the discussion to conduct research in animal-free circumstances, under animal-free conditions. So you already mentioned it, the campaign about FCS. We also had a lot of interesting talks about that in our department. And it created awareness. One of the techniques we also implement in our curriculum is that we train our technicians in cell culture experiments. But why do we do those experiments like we do now? We use approximately 10 liters of fetal cal serum a year, so that would be approximately 20 animals a year. So what is the purpose of doing these experiments in our laboratory? We would like to train our students to how to do these cell culture experiments. But can we also change to a cell model that doesn't need any FCS? So that's currently a spin-off of this campaign also. So can we use other cell lines instead? Another item we discussed, and Jeffrey already mentioned a little bit about it, is the storage of cell culture media. We are discussing with the 3R Centre and developing an infrastructure that enables researchers to conduct research in animal-free cell culture conditions. And as Jeffrey already told, he discusses together with a lot of companies how can we use culture media or components that are available for testing, and we can store them in our department for general use. And finally, the third item, what is interesting for our department, are the internships. We would like to train our students in a more broader way, several techniques to train them, to allow them to get the experience in advantages and disadvantages in several experimental models. And now, I saw already Mark sitting here, and also Tanya. Both students are currently doing an internship from our department. Jeffrey facilitated with two departments of the Utrecht University, the IRAS and the Princess Maxima, and both students are working now on cell culture experiments and how can we grow these cells without FCS. So very important and very nice to implement all those departments together. And I think one of the most important messages, and Daniela also told us in her presentation something about education. And education is a key element in this process. New generation of researchers will be educated, and they can play a huge difference in the transition towards a more animal-free research facility. So, and all this work perfectly fits with the developments in our institute. Our institute's several colleagues are involved in the VHP virtual human platform, and in this platform we use human data to assess safety of chemicals. Another example is Ontox. Several colleagues are involved in this European community where in silico predictions of chemical safety of new compounds are assessed. In our own educational program, in the bachelor program, we try to reshuffle a lot of courses, and we would like to implement the information from VHP and from Ontox in the curriculum. And together with students, we managed in the last 2 years to develop an invertebrate model to test chemicals, an in vitro, more complex cell culture method to test chemicals, and ex vivo tissue material to test again these chemicals. Also, we did some refinement experiments together with the Animal Welfare Body. So this perfectly fits. Jeffrey asked me, what are the thoughts? Can you give a thought for the new 3R Center? So it was beautiful, the campaign about FCS. Is it also possible to do such a campaign about refinement of laboratory animal experiments? I saw in your sheet there's the third R in the line, but I think for us it is a very important one. And here are a few examples from the past few years in which students from our University of Applied Sciences collaborated with Animal Welfare Body in order to assess the effects of recovery food on surgical interventions, on cage height, on welfare parameters in laboratory rats. And within a few weeks we think we can already start a new project with long-term analgesia on scar formation and animal welfare. These are all examples of refinement. So this will further facilitate the communication between two worlds, the animal experimentation world and the alternatives. It's very important. This is a very important item to combine these two worlds. So the success is here for the taking, and a few items to summarize. There are many enthusiastic colleagues among these different departments. There are many themes in content and in technical topics that we share. The USP has a strong regional, national, international position. We have continuous professional education, a strong network in the transition towards animal-free research, a strong basis for next-gen education, and we look forward to continue working together to develop the Master of Dierproefvrije Innovatie next year. So, there's no imagination, but let's continue the good work, and we look forward to the future collaborations.
The one microphone. Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much, Ronald. It was really, really nice and really insightful. Yeah, with that we have almost come to an end. So I really want to thank all the speakers for painting a bright future. I also want to really thank Sjoukje, Anouk, Héloise for helping also with organizing this seminar, but not. Oh. And of course also the researchers that are now working together with us and that are taking the step and that are thinking with us to move. And I think that is a large step, because it takes courage to move, and it takes also a bit of, it is insecure. You know what you have, you don't know what you're going to get. So this is actually, it looks threatening, but it is not really threatening. This is, we wanted to really mark that we have a new website. So we made a little movie for that. It's the end. It is really the end of this. This is the only thing standing between you and the drinks. So I will make it short. What I want to emphasize though, and that's the last sentence that I'm going to say, Utrecht has a very, very rich past in animal welfare, as stated before, but also in experimental animal, or in alternatives to experimental animals. We are here now in the present, and I think it's our job at the present time to sculpt out a really bright future for Utrecht, and I think we are in an excellent and unique position to do that. So I really look forward to be part of that. And I hope that this website will contribute a bit to that. So without further talking. Okay. So I invite you all to visit the website, but also to contact us. We are very open for collaborations. Visit the website, make contact, see what we can do for you. And for now, end today and have some drinks. So, thank you.